that Cedric McMillan was in for a dogfight from Dallas McCarver, so he'll not soon be forgotten, Dallas. He left his footprint here in this industry. I know that Cedric and him clowned around and had some good times, and here's Cedric trying to represent. And this is the guy, Dan, that Arnold Schwarzenegger was saying that if we were looking for an ideal physique that embodies what a bodybuilder should look like, perform like, and even behave like, Cedric McMillan fit the bill as far as Arnold Schwarzenegger was concerned. Slightly off here tonight, may not be in that top 6, but this is a guy you cannot ignore when he's in shape.
Well, he was good enough to win the Arnold Classic earlier this year. This is only his 3rd Olympia. His previous finish is 7th and 12th, and a lot of us have been waiting for him to deliver something spectacular here in Las Vegas. We know what his physique is capable of being. The question is, can he put that together here on bodybuilding's biggest stage? But let's sit back and watch Cedric's routine, because Cedric has quickly become one of the more popular guys in the sport, somebody who we really enjoy covering, and somebody who has a whole lot of fun and also keeps great perspective about all of this. So let's...
Josh Lenardowitz.
All right, the pride of Australia is going to walk onto the stage right now. From the emerge from the smoke is Josh Lenardowitz. He has 3 pro wins already to his credit. He won just a month ago in Tampa, Florida, and then after that happened, one of the more impossibly tragic scenarios played out in the life of Josh Lenardowitz when he lost his roommate, his dear friend, who also happened to be one of the best bodybuilders in the world, Dallas McCarver. And Sean Ray, this has been an extraordinary set of circumstances for Josh. It's remarkable that he's even here, but I know he has made it a point to make everyone know that he's dedicating everything that he's doing here at the Olympia to his fallen friend.
Yeah, and what he has left in the tank, he's bringing to the stage. It's not enough to be competitive like he would like to be, because he's been better. But under the circumstances, respectable. He's still cracked into the top 10. That's a reward in and of itself. He's a lot softer than he was in Tampa, Florida. We've seen him better. But even when he's off, he's one of the top 10 physiques in the world, which tells you a little bit about this guy's potential, especially when he's 100% mentally focused, along with being physically prepared.
In spite of everything he's gone through, when you look at this guy's proportions, his structure, you could see why this guy has superstar written all over him. He's got a great look, great stage presence. He's extremely popular, not just in Australia, but throughout the entire world.
Absolutely, and you know what? In spite of the soft, thin layer of water that's conjugated around the hamstrings and the glutes and the back, you can clearly see that the muscle is underneath there. He's got to be in much better condition on a show of this caliber. But the shape is there. Of course, the knock on Josh is the chest. There's a little bit of a genetic disposition there with his chest being...
Bodybuilding's hottest properties, and it's kind of fallen a little bit under the radar when we start talking about all these other big names. But Brandon Curry's competed twice this year. He won both times, including the Arnold Classic, Australia. He then, a while back, headed over to the aforementioned Oxygen Gym over in Kuwait, and he started training with those guys out there. And to some degree, his entire career, his entire approach to this sport has been reinvented. His momentum is off the charts, and he comes in here to Las Vegas as a guy with a legitimate chance to secure a spot in the top 5.
Dan, they call this guy the prodigy. He won the overall USA Championships. What's more amazing is that he's done it raising 4 kids with an IFBB Pro Bikini wife in Brandy Lever. I can't say enough for the sacrifice this guy makes for his family, and the ability to have the freedom from his wife to do what his passion is, and now they're starting seeing the fruits of his labor, taking 2 and 3 months away from the family to do the business of bodybuilding and to show up in this kind of condition with 2 victories in 1 year. It's a stellar performance that Brandon Curry right now is up here with the top 10 guys, because a year ago we wouldn't have been talking about this. He made a sacrifice and a commitment, and now we're starting to see the rewards. Brandon's always been slightly top heavy. The wide shoulders, the big arms don't always match up with the legs, which have been slight, but he's brought the legs.
Bodybuilding champion Nathan Diasha competed in just his 2nd Olympia, and this is a guy who really packs a lot of muscle, and he's a guy who really, if he can find the formula, has the ability to beat a lot of guys.
Yeah, he won the Lou Ferrigno Classic this past October, I believe it was, out there in Palm Springs. So to get here, you had to win to get here. He didn't do this on points. Took some time off, and he's done some pretty good things. He wanted to add some thickness, and again, the second time out, he's actually better than he was last year, just at first blush. And again, this is a 2-day contest, so what we're looking at right now, typically these guys improve over 24 hours because they've dehydrated a little bit, and then they posed a little bit, got the bugs out, and then tomorrow they come back at their absolute peak. Nathan is very close to his best right now. We'll see where that's going to land him tomorrow, but he's been a very consistent work in progress.
Well, a special shout out to those of you watching us live on the Amazon Prime Video app, which is another very convenient way to experience all things Olympia, and of course a whole arsenal of great content, and we're so thrilled to have the folks at Amazon Sports Nutrition presenting this year's Joe Weider Olympia Weekend as we get a look at Nathan Diasha, and we're going to see All right, our 2017 Olympia Finals is now underway as Ruli Winkler, by way of Curacao, makes his way to the stage. He's had a fairly quiet year after a busy one a year ago where he competed 8 times, and Ruli, of course, showcases some of those historically spectacular arms, and he's really done a great job of becoming a real big star here in Las Vegas, Sean, each year come Olympia time.
Well, Dan, like I said from a day ago, 24 hours later, we could be looking at a totally different bodybuilder, which at first blush, that's exactly what I see. I see a Ruli Winkler that's a little bit closer to where he should have been yesterday, so he did definitely make up ground. The arms actually looked like they grew, but in that comment, you actually see the separation in the hamstrings and the calves that were kind of missing a little bit yesterday. And you got to wonder, Dan, whether or not it's enough to make up for the slow start a day ago.
Well, there's a lot of spots in that top 6 that are, up for grabs, and I know Ruli wants to grab one of those. He's never managed to finish in the top 6. He's been 7th here. In fact, before the show, we caught up with Jay Cutler, and if you recall, there was that one year where Ruli finished 7th, Jay finished 6th. It was Jay Cutler's final competition. Jay Cutler just admitted to me a few minutes ago that he actually would have put Ruli ahead of him, and he thought that he probably unfairly got the nod.
Well, Jay was mad at me because I said the exact same thing, but I said it in the heat of the moment, and now hindsight is 2020. Ruli had a shot, but that we're talking a long time ago. Ruli's been at it ever since then, trying to get back in there.
To see with great anticipation. He was a runner-up here a year ago. There's been so much anticipation because there's been a lot of rumblings that this is going to be a far more formidable athlete than we even saw here a year ago, as Sean Roden looks to take out the champ. And from the front, Sean Roden is always impressive. Sean Ray, the question is, what's going to happen when he turns around?
Well, and that's the thing. He's not as impressive from the back. And right now, just at first glance, there's a little bit of water hanging on there. He's got to control that midsection. It's just not as ripped as it was. He looks like he's carrying a little extra bloat. That's what I'm going to call it, because he's known to have one of the smaller waistlines in the industry. But right now, he still looks like he just had some food, and that stomach needs to come down a little bit. The side chest, he's always good in. The slight triceps is what really hurts him. But when he turns around to the back, and this is where this show's won and lost, you think of Lee Haney, you think of Dorian Yates, you think of Ronnie Coleman, and you think of Phil Heath. When you turn around to the rear, you better be ready.
And Sean Roden is a guy who notoriously gets better as the contest goes. So I would caution everyone to kind of hold your judgment and watch how this thing plays out, because these bodies change over the course of the night. There's also that 24-hour period that will wait until the finals on Saturday night. But now we're Sean Ray. We're getting our first look at the back shots of Sean Roden. That's the one that we knew would have to improve for him to take that next step. So I'll ask you, has it improved?
Well, I mean, not to the degree that Phil Heath is up there with and Dexter Jackson. And again, Sean says it takes more than just the back, but the lower back especially is a very weak area for Sean. And again, if he's not razor sharp, and he looks to be a little bit heavier than he was a year ago, and I bet he probably would say that he is, but I don't know that that's going to work in his favor. Again, Dexter could be heavier and Phil could be heavier.
There's improvements back there, Sean. This might not be a good enough back shot to win an Olympia, but I'd say he's he's lived up to his promise to make some improvements. And what shouldn't be lost in all of this, and it's easy to forget it, when we talk about Shawn Rhoden, we're talking about a guy who for 5 years in a row has been top 4 at this time. Rami, I'm not sure we got a lot of all-time bests this weekend.
No, but this guy right here, for him, I would venture to say that his coach Neil Hill and him, William Bonek from the Netherlands, feel like they brought their absolute best. And again, I said last year, if this guy ate a potato, he'd be spilling over because there's no more room to put any more muscle on. But somehow or another, this guy has found a way to come in a little bit bigger and a little bit better. Williams got confidence, Dan. He's actually beaten Shawn Rhoden. He's actually beaten Big Rami. So he is not afraid to get up here and show his best against the world's best.
He was the story of last year's Olympia, and he now has 6 professional wins to his credit. But when he landed in the top 5 here a year ago, no one saw it coming. But this year in 2017, he's no longer going to sneak up on anybody.
No, you can't put another inch on those arms. He's about maxed out in terms of weight. The only thing that I think this guy could use is a little bit more condition. I think he looked a little bit drier and a little bit tighter last night. But again, it's relative to who you're standing next to. And we haven't seen all the main players yet. We still got Dexter to come. We still got Phil Heath to come. But right now, William Bonek is here, and he's arrived.
You know, it's great because we're starting to see the emergence of guys that really weren't on that top-tier radar a couple years ago. And it's important because, as you've mentioned many times, Shawn, a lot of the best bodybuilders in the world, they're starting to get to that point where how much longer can they really do this? So when you see a guy like Brandon Curry come in and Big Rami and some of the others.
Effectively vanquishing one of the greatest bodybuilders in Dexter Jackson, who's got an Olympia and 9 Arnold Classic titles. Shawn Rhoden, who was last year's first runner-up. So we saw this man coming a year ago, and now it looks like he's arrived. As far as I'm concerned, it's the best he's been on this Olympia stage, and he's going to be looking for his just desserts by the time this night is over.
Well, there's certainly no design, Shawn, no denying, as you just mentioned, this is the best version of Big Rami we have ever seen. When you start talking about the comparison between Phil Heath, it's going to open up a whole whirlwind of controversy when this event is over, regardless of who wins. If it goes to Phil, if it goes to Rami, this is your classic apples versus oranges comparison. These two guys have very little in common in terms of their physiques, but they both brought it this year. If question is, who's got the goods to kind of get it over the top? Because some people feel that Phil Heath may have left that door cracked a little bit open.
He certainly did, and of course from the back, Phil Heath closes that door, and he will be focusing on those back shots, because from the front, Big Robbie is undeniably B-I-G big, and I know all too often the comparison, Dan, of apples and oranges. This is going to come down to what the judges decide to do with the direction of professional bodybuilding, as Rami's got a very strong case to walk off with a Sandow trophy, and I don't think you're going to hear a lot of boos if that should happen. But right now, let's enjoy this beast of a man from the East. Good Lord. The delts, the quads, the small waist, the abs, the pecs. I mean, Rami has done his business, and not to be outdone, he was working with legendary trainer Big Chris Cormier, who's graced this stage many times, as high as 3rd place back in 1999. Chris Cormier came into the camp through Bader
New York, and so began one of the most illustrious careers this sport has ever known. He has since gone on to win the Olympia 6 times, and tonight he's gunning for number 7. He and his trainer Hani Rambod have put in the work. They devised a plan, so I'm going to let you, Sean Ray, be the first here in 2017 to assess this version of Phil Heath.
It was a long time ago, Dan. Phil has done many things in those 11 years with what he has to work with, and mind you, he didn't wake up and become Mr. Olympia overnight. He put in the work. He won that junior national title. Wound up coming up winning the USA's right here in Las Vegas, and he's plotted his way. I believe he started off in the Mr. Olympia not as Mr. Olympia. He was 4th place, worked his way up to first runner-up behind Jay Cutler, and ultimately grabbed the title, and here he is. And so far, I got no complaints. And again, from the back, this is where these shows are won and lost. Those hamstrings, that back, I haven't seen anybody matching him in this.
Yeah, it really is a winning formula. It's just a level of dimension that most guys just really in the history of the sport haven't been able to bring to the stage. It is eye-popping, jaw-dropping muscle as Phil Heath gets the crowd behind him, and it's really fun watching Phil sort of evolve as a professional. The way he takes the stage, the way he commands the stage, he hits his shots, he knows what he's here to do. This is very much a workman-like business trip for Phil Heath, and he's here to continue his reign atop the sport. But make no mistake about it, each year it's a different look for Phil.
Olympia champion Phil Heath.
All right, we're going to go ahead and throw it to Carla Sanchez, who's with our classic physique champion backstage.
That concludes all 18 of our